Hey everyone, it's Joe Glines here out of Dallas for this short, long talk. I think this will actually be shorter than some of our others. And my colleague Jackie.
Yeah, from Copenhagen, Denmark here. Yeah, so let's talk about some history if we can.
Yeah, so we thought this would be a fun. Now this one, you don't have to have the image in front of you, so you can definitely listen to this because we'll be describing what we're looking at. But on the desktop here, I happen to see this image on the history of Autohotkey in the beginning part. Of course, starting off with Chris Mallett. I should have gone back and looked for some time date wise, but it would have been nice context, but it really is irrelevant. And then all the way down to where we are now with the normal Autohotkey Dll and kind of two. So I also, on this one, I saw a more in-depth image that had other branches that weren't nearly significant. And I just thought this one is a good list of the ones that had been around. Do you agree, Jackie? I don't know how much you've followed this over the years.
Yeah, I'd say, to me at least, because I don't have a track of all the different branches, but these are the main ones, those that people would have seen if they were kind of a part of the community at one point. Yeah.
I realized I can do this real quickly here, just for everyone on this, is, all right, so the beginning actually was, AutoHotkey. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris was an AutoHotkey developer, is that right?
Yeah, that's how I know it, yeah.
Yep. And then he wanted to implement some stuff that people at AutoHotkey didn't like, and so he created the Autohotkey, right? Did he actually fork it from AutoHotkey, or did he rewrite like AutoHotkey? Do you know?
I'm not sure you could say he forked it, or if that was even a functionality back then, but it was what he did.
That's so funny.
He took the actual source code, the open source, with that license at that time, and rewrote I think mainly it was the hotkey functionality where they differed in opinion, or maybe something about going closed source. I'm not sure, but maybe.
Yeah,
but at least it was the hotkey functionality.
Right, which was probably one of the big reasons why Chris included hotkey in the name of Autohotkey, right? To help differentiate what it's different about. Which in positioning, by the way, is one of the best ways you can do it is anchor off of something else, but then show them how you're different, right? It's a great way to do that.
Yeah.
So then it looks, if we're looking at the timeline, basically, he handled it for quite a while. And then at some point, Lexicos got involved. And that was where, by the way, and actually I didn't ask you this before the call, but I was talking to Jack a little bit. I said, I started using, honestly, I probably started using Autohotkey actually back in here somewhere. But I was just using hot strings and hotkeys. And so I never paid attention to anything else. When I started doing dot notation, web scraping, and COM stuff, I was right about here when Autohotkey Dll was newer, and they both actually got the vanilla. That's what everyone called the classic, right? Was the vanilla version.
Yeah.
It was dominant still for quite a while after this one came out, right? I mean, it wasn't a huge switch over.
No.
And actually, this is interesting. So before I keep blabbering on, where do you think you were when? Did you start? Because I know you were about the same time as me, probably in here somewhere. Do you think timeline?
Yeah, I believe you were before me.
A little bit, but not a lot. I think.
No, I don't know exactly how many months, years, whatever it was, but I never actually. I think I downloaded Dll, or I downloaded Basic, but went to the forum because I always do that to kind of get an idea from what the community says, and they were already at that time the most prominent users were saying you should use Dll, because when I started using Autohotkey, COM had just been released as built into Dll.
Okay.
So all the examples on the forum had the old way.
Oh yeah, it was painful.
Yeah.
So painful.
So because of that, and because what I was actually working with was something that was within a browser, I very, very quickly switched over to Dll because.
Oh. So Sorry, I didn't. I'm not clear on this. Did the main reason why the switch from AutoHotkey Vanilla to AutoHotkey L, was it the actual incorporation of COM? Was that at the very beginning of L? Is that what stimulated the change to the _L?
I'm not sure if that was the thing. I think the objects more than anything that made it possible to incorporate COM and stuff like that in the manner that they did. So I think the objects are more important per se, that functionality. So
and actually we were chatting a bit about this also. Before this happened, or somewhere in here, that was where, as Jackie mentioned, COM was not in vanilla. And then there was a developer named Sean, which we all owe an incredible amount of gratitude, because he created how did you name them? Not personal functions, what'd you call them?
User-defined functions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So he built a library of a class of functions that allowed you, and now granted the syntax for me was hard to read, but it still allowed you to connect with Internet Explorer, to connect with Excel and do stuff, right, that you couldn't do before, at least sending with the COM, which was super reliable. And Jackie and I blabber on and on at every webinar and everything because so easy.
At some point, Chris, he added the use of Dell calls to the classic. And at some point, Sean, he used that to make the COM functionality available to all the users of AutoHotkey. It was great. And Lectico says he saw that somehow, somewhere, wherever, and incorporated that together with, I think, Finch and some other people who helped with actually making that happen.
Cool. So that was actually, this is one of those things I didn't realize, because when I think of Finks, correct me if I'm wrong, he was the creator of the site for AutoHotkey, right? Which is what you and I used as an editor. And I know you're kind of half and half. I'm mostly with Studio now. But I didn't realize he actually worked on, building the AHK 64.
And COM and other stuff. He did quite a lot of interesting things. I'm not sure exactly how much stuff he actually did, but he was kind of on the sidelines of a lot of different stuff.
You're right. He had a great thread on COM, if I remember correctly, or at least he wrote a lot of the stuff of here's for PowerPoint, here's for this, here's for that, right? Of like an entry level using COM. Here's the object. Here's a couple things, But I totally forgot about that. I do remember seeing it on the forum, and I learned a lot from that as well. Now, what was AutoHotkey U? I have no knowledge of what that was and what it did. Oh, was it UTF?
I'm not really sure. I know I saw the name before, but it must. I think it might have been a thing in another AutoHotkey language. Maybe it was more of a Chinese thing or something. I'm not sure, because it never really was anything that I ended up either using or reading much about. So to me, I think it might have been something that was a thing outside of the English form, perhaps.
Okay, I don't see it anywhere in any clear results. So, yeah, we'll say maybe that is what it was.
How about if you do it for the AutoHotkey forum? Maybe.
That was my first one. Was on the forum,
and it didn't find it.
No, I have a hotkey that'll perform a Google search on the forum. I use a lot, and it didn't find it didn't look like anything relevant, at least.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're kind of missing.
Maybe it was Unicode. Could that be it?
That's what it would make sense too, even with the Chinese that you were describing, right? Is that maybe it's a blend of the two things? Is they made it where it was Unicode compliant, and obviously that was a huge benefit for all users, right? Obviously more in Europe and Asia and such, but sure. I mean, at my corporate job, I dealt with UTF-8 stuff all the time. So it was really helpful that was built in.
Yeah, we're still at Americanly produced software still have issues at times with different Unicode characters, which is kind of sad when you know how long it's been supported in most aspects of computer science. But yeah, it still happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the AutoHotkey.dll. Now, I remember playing around and using it some, but I can't recall why. Was it required for certain functionality or certain for DL calls at all? I don't recall what.
No, it's actually, it is Autohotkey, but instead of an exit, it's a Dell. So you could call it from VBA or Python or whatever. It's just another way of making all of Autohotkey's functionality available.
Yeah, so I think because I did play around where I was using Python and leveraging AutoHotkey inside it. That's probably where I played with it for a while.
Yeah, and of course, by having it in a Dell, you get the ability, if you do it correctly, to do multi-threading and different types of stuff. So that's the Dell actually allowing most of that stuff.
Oh, interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, a DLL is really, for the most part, just a group of functions that are set up in a file. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I didn't know that for years. I think you were the one that told me that like 5 years ago, and I was blown away. I had no idea. I understood I had to find this DLL for some stupid library missing, but I never understood what in the world they were. I thought they were a driver. Anyway. And then, so somewhere in there, let's jump down this way a little. So from that's where Hotkey started developing AutoHotkey H. And he's been working on that. I haven't seen if he obviously he's working on a fair amount because he's created the version 2, to match with Lexicos's version 2 to make him cope whatever you call that. They'll stay on the same work ahead. But I haven't actually. He did our webinar, which anyone who hasn't seen it was an interesting webinar. Real quickly, one of the biggest benefits is you can have a much more encrypted script that people can't easily decompile. Right, it's one of the, at least that's what Jackie and I. It's one of the biggest benefits is, I can easily put it in, and people can't just use a decompiler and see instantly all of my source code. Right.
Yeah, he made some extra functionality to do that. But yeah, if you went in and recompiled the AutoHotkey source, you could probably, I'm not saying that it's easy or anything like that, but you could probably get some kind of depth there to hide whatever you were doing. But yeah, H exposes that a little bit, so you can do it a little bit simpler than whatever you would need to do to hide whatever you did in L. So yeah.
And to your point earlier, I knew this. I didn't know that about the DLL, but it has multi-threading capabilities.
Yeah.
In AutoHotkey H, which is when you need it, it's very convenient, right? It does get around some things. It's nice.
I'd say most people, and I myself have hit that one, and you do it at some point. You get into AutoHotkey programming, whatever you call it, scripting or what you like, and at some point you have this idea that you want something else to be going on within your script at the same time, or if you have something prompted to the user, you want your script to do whatever it was doing still.
Right.
And there they think, oh, I need multi-threading. Why doesn't AutoHotkey have multi-threading? But I have made some quite complex things, so you might not need it as much as you believe at one point.
Right. There are workarounds,
But yeah, sure, there are some things where multi-threading are an interesting thing to have available. But yeah, I don't believe that many people have a true need for multi-threading.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing for me when I was using Python, and maybe AutoHotkey H can do this. It's not, I don't think it's easily, but the web scraping where I'm going to go get a bunch of data, ping a bunch of different servers at the same time and have them come back not being is it parallel? Which way am I thinking? Not one after the other,
Yeah.
really speeds up things like crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of web stuff is done synchronously or asynchronously. I can't remember which one of them it is, but
Asynchronous. It's asynchronous is the one where it's different times and everything can keep going. Yeah,
and of course that's also one of the where I have that need at times. But yeah, it should probably still be a little bit easier to do, to really catch on for AutoHotkeyers. You still need to take specific precautions and do code in a special way to make sure that
exactly.
You can actually do it.
Right. Yeah. And then we'll wrap up here, going back up to the Autohotkey Dll version 2 in a minute. But let's touch on the Polythenes Iron AHK. That was written in a whole different. Was that .NET? Is that what it was written in? It was.
It could be .NET, but yeah, I normally just think of it as have been written in C#. But if it was one or the other, I can't remember. But at least the idea was that it would become
cross-platform, right?
Yeah, cross-platform.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
this. .NET. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't think it's dead now, right? As far as I don't think it's still actually.
He hasn't developed on it, and I don't believe that any other true developer has tried to do anything. And I don't think it ever was put on GitHub or anything. So I don't think anyone has actually had the ability to work on it per se. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, so let's back it up to our. I'm going to bow down to Lexicos again for all the work he does, and he's been doing it for quite a while, right? Being now, granted, I do know there are other people that are helping him, assisting with stuff, doing it, but he at one point split off L to version 2, and correct if I'm wrong on this one, it's mainly to clean up some of the funny syntax stuff. And also mostly get rid of commands and move them into functions where we no longer have this 2 different formats for running. I don't know the right word to use there, but they'd all be functions and no more commands where you just use commas and no parens and using a function. Does that sound?
I'd say that the thing that I think it really stand out is a part of the history overall is that with Auto it was commands. They at one point switched over to function syntax, but Autohotkey didn't. Then objects came, expressions became a bigger thing. Dll calls, which was in a function format type thing. Functions became a bigger thing in Autohotkey, but the compatibility, the backwards compatibility stayed the same. So at some point you had so many ways of doing the exact same thing. So you had a very cluttered forum with examples of doing it one way or the other way, or both ways in the same script, and doing it one way on one line and another in another line.
Yeah.
And then the doubts started. New users coming in was unsure what to do, when and where and how and why. And that became a thing that people talked about for quite some time. And then Autohotkey version 2 came along as kind of a thing from that to try and clean up all of this extra compatibility. It wasn't to get rid of functions or commands, but to actually give you both. Give you, so you could use commands if you wanted, or functions if you wanted, for everything. So you had a command and a function because you actually rewrote the phraser of the script to allow for both things.
I thought it was to remove commands entirely. I thought it was
It came way later because people kept talking about, hey, why don't we make a full switch to functions? And not have commands. But I'm not really sure if the commands have been removed.
I think they have, but it maybe it definitely wasn't at the beginning. It sounds like.
Yeah. But one of the things was that if you made a user-defined function, you could call it as a command syntax. So it was completely unnecessary for you to choose to do it one or the other way, because you could just do both.
Now, this here, where it says removed command syntax.
Yeah, that is the thing.
But is that still? Are you still saying that you actually, in reality, you can do a command? It's just, I think you call it the phraser, which I have no idea what that is.
No, I'd say now that that's there.
Okay.
That functionality has been removed, as it says.
Yeah.
But it wasn't at the beginning. Sure. It wasn't the first thing that happened. Yeah. It's something that's happened maybe a year or two ago.
Okay.
Something like that.
And incidentally, so I know, because this question comes up, I get it somewhat frequently, where just people will email me and ask me, because it's confused. Actually, let's. So now we've kind of discussed all of them. Autohotkey L has been around for quite a while now. It's very solid. It gets little minor tweaks here and there, but there's no major functionality changes. I'd say in the last like 4 or 5 years or whatever, right? Overall, it's stayed very similar. But there's this whole version 2 out there with just the Autohotkey, L, and this one, instead of hotkey, its version just with Lexicos. And the question comes up a lot is, well, hey, which one should I use? And to Jackie's point, also, version 2 does have some breaking of backwards compatibility in some ways, right? And the other one, which Lexicos has been, seems like less passionate overall about actually developing to. It's one of those things like, it might happen where we actually, the whole forum and everyone switches to 2, but right now, honestly, I would definitely say stick with L, and stick with, which Jackie and I know we've talked about this a lot, is that the 32-bit Unicode version is the one we prefer. It's great. It's small, runs awesome.
Yeah, and I'd say it's a matter of compatibility, right? So if you have programs that are running one way or the other, the 32 will work for them. But if you have one if you're running 64, you will have a harder time with actually working with programs that are not 64. So in that aspect, at least to how I understand those two, yep. And you're not really getting much of a speed boost from switching, and that's the same with the Autohotkey version 2. What do you actually get by switching? I've asked this question a few times, and not because I've really pressed anyone for it, but I don't see a large enough benefit of switching to 2 just because you should switch to 2. That's not a good enough argument for me to do it, because there's no real speed benefit. There is some syntax cleanup. There's a few other things, but not much. So until an official switch is made and this is the main developed thing, I probably won't make the switch.
Yeah, me too. It actually somewhat reminds me when I have terrible timing for languages apparently, because when I was playing with Python was in this big, the whole community, I mean all the programmers were, there was the 2. I think it was 7, and then version 3 had come out, but version 3 actually had a lot of backwards compatibility issues with version 2. They changed a lot of things, and not that many people were switching, and it was really confusing at the time of which one do I use, this and that. Now, that was years ago, so I think now they're on to 3. They're probably, it's like 3.2 or something by now. But
I'm not sure they've switched everybody yet.
Yeah, because again, there was backwards compatibility issue, and people had programs that were written years ago, right?
I'm pretty sure if you made a search right now on that topic, you would find something fairly recent that would be
fair enough
both ways.
Which actually, so part of it in Python, the problem was there were people still saying, oh, here's this functionality in version 3 I like. I'm going to backport it to the version 2. And so it took away the reason why to switch to 3. And then I noticed, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's on the forum. It's JEES, I think, WG. And he, sure enough, has written functions that will backport some of Autohotkey version 2 functionality into the Autohotkey Dll. And the more people do that, to me, it's like it again removes the reason to switch. But anyway,
yeah, and people tried at one point to make functions and other libraries that would work on both, but again, it seemed like a lot of hassle for them to try and do. But yeah, they were trying to help 2 along. Is my best bet. But I don't know when Lecticos he kind of took a more laid back. But as soon as he, over the last couple of years, when someone a bit more knowledgeable than the average Autohotkey user comes in with something that seems a little bit more challenging, or has some potential that kind of catches his eye, he might make a few changes that makes that functionality possible. And I know there was something about being able to grab objects in JavaScript and you kind of work with that. He made a few changes maybe a few years ago to make objects able to do that from our.
So and you might remember this because I wrote him on the forum saying, hey, would you be interested in coming on to doing a webinar about Autohotkey version 2, explaining where it's going, what's going to be about it? And he declined. He said it, but he mentioned some other stuff about a little bit of his not being as passionate about the stuff. But he did mention, I remember he said, there's been a couple things I've been interested in, and the JavaScript thing, I think, was one of those that he mentioned. And so, I don't blame him at all, right? Of like saying, I'm going to pick and choose what I want to, work on in corporate, right? Because, I mean, we should, maybe we'll dock his pay, right? I'm saying, because of course none of us get paid. So I'm so thankful for all the work he does, but, at least he's still, and again, if someone points out a bug or this or that, he'll make a tweak, right? Or someone else working with him might make the tweak, but that's the thing. I still think he keeps some kind of oversight over the Git project. At which degree he's doing it, I don't know, but I'm not keeping track of it anyway. So I know that when I started back in 2012, he was already a part of the community. L had come out, COM had been implemented into L, and now we are in 2019, and he has kind of taken a more laid-back approach to whatever he works on. Fair enough, but that's at least how I see it. 10 years he's been actually developing something for the rest of the community. So I don't know if I could keep my focus on something for 10 years like that. Agreed. So at least for me to wrap, not to wrap it up, but a good conclusion, I think, to what we've covered, because I honestly, this has been a great call. I didn't realize it was going to be so interesting. But so I'm fortunate enough where I recently found out Tank, one of the leaders and the admins on the forum, moved real close to me. So and I didn't get to talk to you about this earlier, Jackie. I should have brought it up. But we were talking about, I forget what, but because one of his pet peeves is people will say, hey, is Autohotkey dead, right? If Lexicos, fades away, is it dying, and do we have to worry about this? And he pointed out, one is like, the actual language itself hasn't changed in much in like 5 years easily, right? Nothing major's been done to it. But the really cool thing that he mentioned, and I only mentioned this not so you take action because he doesn't want it to happen, but because I brought it up, I'm like, well, the other option is there are so many Autohotkey users that let's say everyone on this thing died and went away or whatever, was tired of it. There's enough of a community where we could pitch together and hire a qualified programmer and say, we want this to happen, right? And make it happen. And the thing I wanted to mention was, Tank mentioned was, he's like, they purposely, I didn't know this, they purposely hide the donation link to donate to the Autohotkey Foundation because it was raising too much money and they don't want all this extra money. You know, they got plenty of money to help, you know, handle the forum and do this other stuff. But he's like, trust me, if we actually made that link more visible and asked for donations because we want to implement something, he's like, trust me, there's no doubt we would get, you know, enough money to literally pay a programmer, someone, you know, to take the lead. So besides, of course, we have volunteers that are doing the stuff, right?
Yeah, but I can say as much as I'm an admin on the official Facebook Autohotkey page, and so I see the questions coming in, the new people liking, and the new people wanting to be added to the groups and stuff like that. And it has compared to my other.
We push our Facebook group because Jackie and I have one, but sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying that, yeah, it has, because Autohotkey isn't actually running any ads. It's not doing anything like that, but it has a good influx of people all the time.
Yeah.
So, and I remember when I was more active on a forum, I believe that you always have maybe 200 or something like that lurking, and
active,
maybe between 20 and 50 actually registered users active all hours of the day. So there is a community there. So yeah, sure. I understand why donations.
Not to mention Discord and Reddit, and you know, actually those two I would say are the big ones now, right? That also you'll see people there all the time.
Yeah, true. And people, they get something from learning Autohotkey. It actually helps them throughout the day.
Yeah.
So gratefulness is something, and people are pretty willing to help. And a good amount of people say, make a donation if you want to do something. Because, hey, this took me 5 minutes to help you, and I know you're glad, but you don't need to send me $5 or whatever. So better just donate to the foundation. And so I understand what Tank is saying. And this is every day.
Right.
So yeah, it would add up.
Awesome. Well, I think this was a great chat. Really interesting topic, especially if you're newer to Autohotkey. It's kind of neat to hear the history. You know, what's happened, where it's going. There are, as Jackie mentioned too, there's a lot of other contributors that have, you know, that help and do stuff. These are the more prominent ones. But
yeah, it's interesting. If you look, let's say you look at either the documentation or the GitHubs for the source code or for the documentation or stuff like that, you'll see some names that you don't actually see on the forums, doing all kinds of small things each and every day. So yeah, sure, there are absolutely other names than the one on that exact image. Yeah.
I want to, because I know somewhere. Okay, it said it was released in 2003. I just glimpsed that somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, November 10th, 2003. So just so you have some sort of an idea. Oh, what was this? In Autohotkey, here we go. In 2010, Autohotkey version 1.1, originally called. That's weird. Autohotkey Dll.
That's correct. It isn't called L anymore.
Oh, really? Oh, because it's the main. Gotcha. Yeah. I do remember confusion around that. But so that was in 2010. So that was still.
Back then it was called L, and it was called L up until we actually switched sites. You remember?
Is that when that happened? Thank you.
Yeah.
So this was the 2003 beginning, and somewhere in here was 2010.
Yeah.
Right, and that at least gives us a little context of, you know, again, that was 2010 here, right? That's quite a while to have worked out the bugs in it, right? It's pretty darn stable.
That's true. That's true. It is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, good call. I'll talk to you next week. It's good stuff.
Absolutely.
All right. See everyone later.
Yeah, bye.